I recently had the pleasure of sitting down with Huckleberry Finn and asking him a few questions about his experiences as he progressed through his journey down the Mississippi River. In this interview, I attempted to capture his views on life before, during, and after his travels. Now let's get into the interview. Why did you associate yourself with the King and Duke for so long?
Well, I wasn't the biggest fan of the King and the Duke's ways, but they helped me and Jim. And since they did that, I didn't see no reason to get rid of them.
Did being around them for such a long period of time change the way you acted or the way you felt about others?
When I was around them, I might have acted different sometimes, mainly because I wanted everybody to get along. When the King and the Duke tried to scam Miss Mary Jane, I just couldn't go along with it no more. It just didn't feel right. And from then on out, I thought the King and Duke was some downright dirty rapscallions.
What motivated you to tell Miss Mary Jane about the King and Duke's devious plan?
Well, Miss Mary Jane was a sweet young lady. When I heard her sobbing that one night by the coffin, I couldn't bear to go along with the King and Duke's plan no more. Then, when I was walking by her room that morning and seen her crying again, I couldn't bear to see it any longer. So I asked what was the problem. When she told me what it was, I knew I had to help. That's why I told her everything there was to know about the King and Duke.
Why did you endure physical and mental abuse from your father for so long? Did you ever think about telling anyone, and if so, why didn't you?
Well, I took the abuse from my paps for a while, because I had to wait for the right time to escape. I suppose I thought about telling some people, but never went through with it. Because Pap was a very scary man, especially when he was drunk. And if he were ever to find out I was snitching, he might have killed me. I reckon if I didn't have my plan to escape, I would have told somebody, because ain't nobody can live like that forever.
What was your thought process when you went against Jim's reasoning and attempted to save the obvious robbers that were aboard the wrecked steamboat?
Well, I reckon they was in the wrong, and they obviously wasn't good people. But I just couldn't bear to see people die like that, whether they was good people or not. I figured I weren't a great person either, but I would have liked to saved them in that situation. Jim was right. They probably should have died, but some part of me was telling me that I needed to save them.
What thoughts provoked you when you watched the Grangerfords and Shepherdsons battle it out in accordance with their feud?
Well, at first I didn't think much of it. I just thought it was some harmless little thing until Buck started telling me about people that had died. Then it kind of worried me a bit. I really began to worry though when Buck told me to get off the road when that man on horseback rode by. And when I watched the both families battle it out after Miss Sophia and Harney got married, I knew I ought to get out of there.
Did you ever feel that you were personally in danger?
About the only time I felt I was in danger was when the big tussle over Miss Sophia was going on. That's why I ought to get out of there as fast as I could.
Did your friend Tom Sawyer influence your decision-making throughout your journey?
Yes, when I was on my adventure, I often thought Tom when I needed some sort of plan because he was always great at those. I always thought, what would Tom do in this situation? And it seemed to help me one way or another.
Did your opinion of him change as you progressed through your journey?
Well, at first, I thought Tom was really smart, and I seen him as a good friend. And I was always wanting to be like him. When I ran into Tom, and we was going to go free Jim together, he always seemed to overcomplicate things and make them harder than they were. I guess I didn't think he was all that smart after all.
How could you, coming from the upbringing you came from, relate to Jim, a runaway slave who wanted nothing other than to be free from slavery?
Well, I never understood why Jim wanted to get away from old Miss Watson. She was a great woman, and from what I seen, she treated him fairly well. But by and by, I guess he wanted us tired of all that work for other people, and just wanted to be free. After being out on the river for a while, I began to realize what it was like to be free. I reckon that's what Jim wanted. And I guess I could understand that, even if it went against everything Pop was telling me.
Was your father kidnapping you the basis for your escape, or had you had previous thoughts of leaving?
I'd always had thoughts of leaving, because I love to explore. But Miss Watson, she took good care of me. I didn't like trying to be civilized and all that, but I suppose she treated me well enough to make me not want to leave. Being back with Pop, though, I couldn't take none of that.
What was life on the river like?
I suppose life on the river was like freedom to me. It was rough, but would have done it again 1,000 times. By and by, it gave me a chance to be my own person, and I didn't have to deal with Pat and none of that anymore.
You made clear you believe you'd go to hell for assisting Jim, a runaway slave, in his escape. Why did you claim this, and do you still believe it?
Well, I always heard that it ain't right to steal from nobody, and that's what I felt like I was doing with Jim. You see, Jim is Miss Watson's property, and I didn't want to be taken from nobody, especially a nice old lady like Miss Watson. Now, I always heard I was going to hell anyways, so I figured that won't be a changing much. I thought about how much Jim helped me, and I seen how much he cared about me. I never thought somebody like him could feel like that, and so I figured to help him out.
When you were disguised as Sarah Williams, what initial thoughts went through your head when you realized there was a search for your friend Jim?
At first I was a little worried and thought I ought to get out there and warn Jim so we could leave the island. But the woman kept talking, and I didn't want her to figure out who I was, because that would remove my disguise. I know that the only way to save Jim was to beat the hunters to the island. But when the woman told me they weren't searching the island until midnight, I felt a little better. I still had to lie to the woman to get away, because I needed to get there before them hunters did. Because I didn't want to lose Jim. He was the only one that knew me and the only friend I ever had.